Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unraveling a mystery that has completely captivated millions of people. We're taking a thrilling journey straight into the Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan to explore Bhangarh Fort. Now, if you know anything about this place, you know it's famously called India's and maybe even Asia's most haunted place. Seriously, if you've ever scrolled through social media, you've definitely seen the creepy videos and heard the terrifying rumors. But today, we aren't just here to tell spooky ghost stories. We are going to peel back the layers of myth, psychology, and history to uncover the actual, chilling truths hidden behind those crumbling stone walls. So buckle up, because the reality of Bhangarh is honestly far more fascinating than any ghost story you've ever heard. To really understand the infamy of this place, you just have to look at the official warning sign posted right at the main gate. It reads, "Entering the borders of Bhangarh before sunrise and after sunset is strictly prohibited." Now think about that for a second. That is not some random warning scribbled by a superstitious local or a nervous security guard. That comes straight from the Archaeological Survey of India. The government, an official government agency, has legally banned anyone from stepping foot inside this fortress after dark. It immediately makes you wonder, right? What exactly are they trying to protect us from? Well, the local legend offers a pretty terrifying answer. The story goes kind of like this. One night, three friends decided to test their luck. They ignored the government's strict warning, grabbed a flashlight, and snuck past the guards into the pitch-black fort. Suddenly, in the suffocating darkness, one of the friends slips and plunges straight into an ancient dry well. His friends miraculously manage to pull him out, battered and bruised, and they frantically speed off toward the nearest hospital. But they never made it. Before they could get help, their car was involved in a horrific crash, killing all three of them instantly. And locals whisper to this day that it was no accident. It was the fort extracting the ultimate price for breaking its cardinal rule. But here's what's truly staggering: the sheer scale of the place we're talking about. Bhangarh wasn't just some tiny, isolated outpost. Founded in the 16th century by Madho Singh, it was a booming, magnificent city. At its absolute peak, it housed over 9,000 houses, grand palaces, sprawling markets, and these incredibly intricate temples. Thousands of people lived, traded, and thrived right there. But if you visit today, you'll notice something incredibly strange. It's almost impossible to ignore. Every single one of those 9,000 houses is completely roofless. The walls are still standing, the streets are perfectly laid out, but the roofs are entirely gone. Locals swear up and down that whenever someone tries to build a roof there, it mysteriously collapses. So, how does an entire bustling city turn into a completely roofless ruin? If you ask the locals, the answer boils down to two highly cinematic curses. The first is known as the Shadow Curse. It claims a monk named Baba Balu Nath allowed the city to be built on one very strict condition: no building's shadow could ever fall upon his home. Well, an overly ambitious descendant went ahead and built a 7-story palace that broke the rule, and the monks supposedly cursed the entire city to ruin. Then there's the second one, which is even darker. It involves a black magic practitioner named Tandrik Singhia. He fell madly in love with the beautiful Princess Ratnavati and actually tried to bewitch her by turning her perfume into a dark love potion. But the clever princess saw right through his trick and smashed the bottle against a boulder. That enchanted boulder then rolled over the dark wizard, crushing him. But with his dying breath, he cursed the city to utter annihilation, dooming everyone inside to roam as restless spirits forever. And you know what? These ancient curses have fueled a massive wave of reported supernatural encounters. Tourists, locals, they all report hearing the agonizing cries of women and the shattering of glass bangles echoing through the ruins at night. Others swear they hear disembodied footsteps following right behind them. Even Bollywood film crews aren't immune to this. During the shoot of the movie Kirana Jan, an actress seemingly became possessed, and directors have reported freak weather anomalies and failing car brakes out of nowhere. But honestly, the most chilling tale comes from a journalist. His scooter inexplicably died right outside the fort. Out of the shadows, a strange man appeared, fixed the scooter with a single touch, and just whispered 3 terrifying words: "They want you." So with all these insane stories floating around, the internet has definitively crowned Bhangarh as the most haunted place in India. But I want to pose a question that's going to completely change how you view this entire mystery. What if the people experiencing these terrifying, heart-pounding encounters aren't lying at all, but they aren't seeing ghosts either? What if there is a completely unseen, invisible force at play here, but it's grounded entirely in science and reality? Okay, before we dive into the science, we absolutely have to address the massive historical elephant in the room. You know Princess Ratnavati, the evil tantric, and the brooding monk? Well, there are absolutely zero verified historical records proving any of them ever existed. Zero. No stone inscriptions, no contemporary documents, nothing. They are purely products of generations of folklore. Think about that. The entire foundation of Bhangarh's haunted reputation is built on dramatic characters that are, historically speaking, total fiction. So if the curses aren't real, what on earth is causing people to feel such genuine physical terror when they visit? The answer actually lies in something completely invisible. It's called infrasound. These are ultra-low frequency sound waves, dipping below 20 hertz. Your ears literally cannot hear them, but your body absolutely feels them. Back in the 1980s, a British engineer named Vic Tandy was working in his lab when he suddenly felt the sheer wave of terror. He broke into a cold sweat and even saw a gray apparition out of the corner of his eye. He was convinced he had seen a ghost. But being a scientist, he investigated. He discovered that a newly installed extractor fan was emitting a sound wave at exactly 19 hertz. Turns out this specific frequency actually vibrates the human eyeball, which causes optical illusions, and it triggers a severe biological response of anxiety and dread. The second he turned off the fan, the ghost completely vanished. And honestly, this is where it gets incredibly fascinating. Let's apply this directly to Bhangarh. Think about the physical geography of this place. You have wind constantly whistling through thousands of ancient, uniquely shaped stone ruins. Plus, Bhangarh is located in Rajasthan's Alwar district, which sits right smack in seismic zone 4, a high-risk earthquake zone. So you have these constant minor tremors, combined with the wind rushing through the crumbling architecture. Together, they act like a giant natural infrasound generator. When people step into Bhangarh and suddenly feel a dark presence, dizziness, or profound anxiety, they aren't feeling a spirit. They are literally feeling acoustic physics. But sound waves are really only half the battle here. We also have to look at our own minds. Enter the psychological phenomenon known as suggestibility. This is basically when a person physically or emotionally experiences exactly what they have been primed to expect. There's a great example of this. In 2008, researchers at Goldsmiths University in London conducted the Haunt Project. They put people in a completely ordinary, plain white room, but they explicitly told them that the room was haunted. The result? Over 20% of the participants reported feeling a presence, and 8% felt sheer, unadulterated terror. In a totally empty room. It just shows that if you tell the human brain it's in danger, it will happily manufacture the fear to match the warning. And that naturally brings us to pareidolia. This is an evolutionary survival trait where our brains are basically hardwired to look for familiar patterns, especially faces, in totally random visual data. You know that famous 1976 Viking orbiter photo, the one that seemed to show a giant human face on the surface of Mars? Yeah, it wasn't aliens. It was just shadows and rocks playing tricks on a brain that was desperate to find a recognizable pattern. Our ancient ancestors survived by spotting the face of a predator hiding in the bushes, so our modern brains are just constantly on overdrive trying to do the exact same thing in the dark. So let's put the whole picture together. Imagine a tourist walking into Bhangarh. Their brain is already completely primed by thousands of YouTube videos and local rumors calling it the most haunted place in Asia. That's the suggestibility kicking in. Then, the infrasound from the wind and seismic activity hits their body, giving them this intense, unexplained physical feeling of dread. Finally, they look into a dark, crumbling corner of a ruin, and pareidolia takes over. Suddenly, a weirdly shaped rock and a shadow instantly transform into Princess Ratnavati or some dark spirit. Boom. The brain has perfectly manufactured a ghost right out of thin air. Let's actually officially debunk these hyperdramatic claims by matching them up with logical, scientific reality. Those agonizing cries of women in the night? Yeah, they map perfectly to the vocalizations of hyenas, which are known to roam the area and can sound terrifyingly human. The disembodied footsteps and rustling in the dark? That is just the massive population of monkeys leaping through the ancient trees right overhead. And that deadly curse striking down anyone who enters? It's simply the extreme danger of navigating a pitch-black, crumbling fortress located in an active seismic zone. The science maps perfectly to the scares. Which finally brings us back to that super ominous government sign at the entrance. The ASI's strict night ban has absolutely nothing to do with spirits. It is entirely about public safety. Bhangarh is a centuries-old ruin. It has zero lighting and the walls are structurally unsound and constantly collapsing. But more importantly, it is located just 50 kilometers away from the Sariska Tiger Reserve. At night, wild animals, we're talking deadly leopards, hyenas, and wild boars, literally use the fort as their hunting ground. So the government isn't keeping you out to protect you from the undead, they are keeping you out so you don't get crushed by a falling rock or, eaten by a leopard. Okay, so if it wasn't a wizard's curse, what actually destroyed this magnificent city of 9,000 homes? Well, the true historical timeline is far more tragic than any dark magic. Built in 1573, Bhangarh thrived for over a century. However, in 1720, it was conquered by the neighboring kingdom of Jaipur, which caused its political importance to completely plummet. But the final, devastating blow? That came in 1783. A severe El Niño climate event triggered the Chalisa famine. It was an apocalyptic drought that wiped out massive portions of North India's population. With absolutely no water, it became physically impossible to live in Bhangarh. The citizens simply packed up and fled. They abandoned the city to the harsh elements, which eventually, over time, ripped the roofs right off the buildings. But that begs the question, why do the ghost stories still survive today when the historical truth is so clear? Well, it really comes down to three things. First, narrative bias. Human psychology naturally prefers a satisfying story with a clear villain, like an evil wizard, over a random, depressing climate drought. Second, the tourism economy. That most haunted tag brings hundreds of thousands of tourists and the whole lot of money to the local area every single year. Literally, no one has an economic incentive to debunk the myth. And third, social media. Virality demands a scary, sensational story. A vlog about an ancient famine might get a few views, but a shaky video claiming your phone battery was drained by a ghost, that goes viral every time. Ultimately, I want to leave you with this absolutely brilliant quote from the legendary scientist Marie Curie. "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood." Bhangarh Fort isn't a monument to dark magic at all. It's a profound case study in human psychology, history, and natural science. When we shine the light of curiosity and logic into the dark corners of our world, the monsters just disappear, leaving behind truths that are far more captivating. So the next time you hear a crazy ghost story, ask yourself, what is the science hiding in the shadows? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning everything.